Okay.
Ready? All right, buddy. We're recounting here the incident of the removal of Indian Head Rock from the Ohio River, 2007-2008, and the media blitz and trial that followed. So start off with, what was your role in Greenup County during the time the rock was removed?
At that time, I was the Commonwealth attorney for the 20th district or circuit, which covered Greenup and Lewis County, and the rock, of course, was in the lower part of Greenup County. So I was like a DA, for those that don't know what a Commonwealth attorney is. It's an office name that was borrowed from Virginia when we broke away from Virginia years ago, and we kept that name, and it's just a DA.
So what was the first time you had heard of Indian Head Rock?
I never heard about it until a state policeman called me on the telephone, and he said, I've got a new case for you, Cliff. He said, and he laid it out about this rock in the river that these people stole, and I won't use the language I used at the time, but I just couldn't. I thought he was kidding me, and until I got into it and understood more about it. And he was assigned to the case after Mr. Cropper had, I think it was Dwight Cropper, that reported this to the police and to the archaeology department at the University of Kentucky.
Yeah, and the Heritage Council. So what was your first thoughts about the rock being removed from the river when you first heard about it? Were you shocked, surprised?
Well, when I first heard about it, I hadn't really thought much about it, didn't have a whole lot of feelings about it until I understood Kentucky's Antiquities Act that I wasn't familiar with at the time. We hadn't had a case like that. And I don't know anybody else that personally that had. There have been some cases around Kentucky, I just hadn't been acquainted with it until I understood the importance of preserving those kinds of things that are registered in Kentucky. And then, after I talked to Dwight Cropper, I talked to the people at the University of Kentucky, I realized the importance of preserving these things in place.
So how did the legal proceedings start after the rock was removed? And of course they took it to Portsmouth first. How did the legal process start on the Kentucky side?
By indictment. And we felt that there wasn't any real, at that time anyway, any real settling the case because of the importance of this rock being kept in its place in the river. And once it was removed, it lost a lot of its significance, I think. So we did grand jury hearings, and I don't remember over what period of time we did that, but we tried to, this being an interstate deal really, a lot of the witnesses, almost all of the witnesses except Dwight Cropper, were from Scioto County, Ohio. So we had to get these people over here to Greenup County. You can't just go over there and hand somebody a subpoena. You have to go interstate and get their judge to issue an order, put them on bond to be here. So that's what we had to go through, and we couldn't get them all here in one day. You know, a lot of those grand jury proceedings just take an hour or less. This thing took a few days, and we tried to collect as much evidence as we could because the state police really, unless it's a real serious murder case or something, they don't run to another state and start interviewing a lot of witnesses, and they just won't put out that kind of effort. Or, well, they're willing to, but their higher ups have a budget and they don't allow them to do that. So we had to do it, and I was glad to do it.
Let's see. Had Kentucky known of the rock before it was removed from the river?
Oh, sure. The Indian Head Rock was known by historical accounts, several writings, and I know you're familiar with some of those. Describe it. It's been photographed, and of course the fellow that was the head of the outfit that removed the rock from the river. That's how he learned about it and became fascinated with it. And it was through those accounts, it was registered as an antiquity with through the Kentucky Revised Statutes with the Department of Archaeology at the University of Kentucky. And these sites are assigned a number and as much detail as you can come up with. And in this case, since the rock had been submerged in the river since probably the 1920s, I think, it hadn't been seen even during low water times. They never let the water get that low anymore, so the rock became evident in dry periods down there before the locks and dams were put in, and it periodically would dry up. They'd have a drought, and the rock would appear.
So was it your office that first, I guess, got involved with Schaefer and knew of Schaefer as kind of being the ringleader that kind of got all this going?
Yes. The state police knew it. I think through efforts of Mr. Cropper, Dwight Cropper, who is an archaeologist from our county, and I think he did a little investigation of his own to find out who was removing this rock when he became aware that it was happening.
So, how long into the indictment process did Jack Conway's office get involved, the Attorney General at that time?
Well, Jack Conway never became involved in the criminal part. You know, this Antiquities Act has criminal penalties, and you can be convicted of a Class D felony for defacing things like that, or removing them, stealing them on state land or whatever. Jack Conway didn't become involved in this rock until it became evident that the people who removed it put it in the possession of, I think, the city of Portsmouth, Ohio. And those officials would not give it up, give the rock up. You see what I'm saying? And so, that being a body politic from another state, our office, the Commonwealth Attorney, DA, is not charged with civil duties to file suits in federal court or whatever to settle these kinds of things, but the Attorney General is, and that's how Mr. Conway got involved. So it was well into the process before Mr. Conway's office got involved.
So during the whole process and the legal proceedings, did Ohio or the city of Portsmouth have any odd requests about negotiating over the rock?
Odd requests.
I read
They did a lot of odd things. I don't know if that you'd categorize them as requests. It became a subject that was constantly in the news. And a lot of the people who were giving account of it belittled it, laughed about it and whatever, and some people thought we were spending too much money, which we didn't spend any that I know of. We spent time, you know. I don't think we've probably spent, surely not more than $100 and some that I know of, but we spent time, and that time is money, I guess. They had ceremonies in the city of Portsmouth where they had mock guards with, I don't know, they might have been real guns, I don't know, but they stood guard. I attended some of them, and it was all in a fairly good humor, but there was an underlying hostility